Welcome back to the Brandmerry web series. I'm Michelle Knight, your host, and I'm excited to continue our branding topic this month on what is your brand story. So maybe you've heard about your brand essence or your brand identity, and they're all very, very similar, but I personally love to refer to this as your brand story because I believe that the story inside of you, those past chapters that have happened, really lead to you creating an authentic brand. When you start there, when you tap into yourself rather than looking outward at everyone else, you can really create a brand that stands out online and starts making that very, very deep connection with your ideal client right off the bat. So before I dive into what your brand story is, quick introductions. My name is Michelle Knight. I'm a branding and business coach, and I work with female entrepreneurs to create a standout brand for their business so they can create their desired income and free up time in their schedule to spend on what matters most to them. Now, when I first started my business, I started with my husband as a graphic and web design business, and we created this website that was awesome, but it was not us at all. It didn't share our brand story. And the reason that happened is because I had this idea that I needed to look to everyone else to see what everyone else was doing, because if they're successful and I do it, that means I'll be successful too, right? So wrong. Every time I looked at my website, I didn't feel myself in it at all. You couldn't see who Michelle Knight was. And because of that, I didn't really want to share it with anyone. And what good is a website or a brand if you're not sharing it with your ideal client? So what I did is I took a step back and I got back in touch with my story, what had led me to this moment, things that actually make me, Michelle Knight, excited, not worrying about anyone else. And what I created was a brand story. And it's very, very clear who I am by just going and looking at my website, by just reading my copy. So today I want to share with you how you can create your brand story and the first couple steps that you need to take. But before I dive into that, I want to just say that this really is the number one step. This is the first thing to do. So if you're in a place of rebranding, thinking about going to work with a graphic designer, I want you to make sure you've done this step. If you're just starting your business and you haven't really gotten into the branding, perfect timing for you. Start with this step. So really come back to this. I cannot stress that enough how important it is. So let's dive in. So you need to tap into your journey. This is your story, brand story, your story. You need to get back in touch with what has happened, what chapters have happened and unfolded in your life that have led you to this moment. So I really recommend that you figure out 3 transitions that have happened. I think that's really easy to tap into. And start thinking, who were you before those transitions? What did you learn during those transitions? Who are you now? This really gives you an idea of the mission and the purpose behind your business. So my mission is to empower women to create a life of freedom. And I do that by encouraging them to share their story with the world. So my tagline is create a life of freedom. I'm often saying time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. I talk about freedom on a regular basis. The photos that I have for my brand are free. There are some of me barefoot walking in the woods, sitting in a canoe, throwing up a peace sign. They're very, very authentic. The colors of my brand represent that as well. That all came from my story. Tapping back into me, what made me unique, what made me happy, what had happened in my life, and what I wanted to share with others. So tap back into that story and get clear on what is your mission. What is the actual mission behind your brand? And allow that to carry through with all the aesthetics and all the copy that you create. You need to be clear on what parts of your life really stand out. And I have to tell you, this is not just going to help you with the actual aesthetics of your brand. This is going to help you with deciding on products or services, writing copy, coming up with web series or live stream topics. It's going to help you in all aspects of your business. So get really, really clear on what parts of your story really stand out to you and what parts of your story you really want to share with others. The other thing is, what do you stand for? What is your purpose? And I'm not talking about your why here. Your why is fantastic, but your why is something that can change on a regular basis, right? So I started my business because I wanted more free time with my son. Well, now I have that. That's fantastic. But now I want to, travel the world even more than we already do. So your why can change and develop over time. Your purpose, what you stand for, is really your mission in life. It is what you want to be remembered for when your life is over. So for me, my purpose is to empower women to share their story, to create their own life of freedom. So what is your purpose? And I have to tell you, by tapping into your story, doing that first part, it's going to start to become really, really clear what you want to teach others about, what you want to be remembered for. And once you have that purpose, your branding pieces become even more powerful. And again, what is your message? So how can you take your purpose and turn it into a message that resonates with your ideal client? So again, my message is create a life of freedom. What is your message? What do you want people to know is possible for them too? And how can you carry that over into the aesthetics of your brand, your photos, your logo, your colors, your fonts, also your messaging? So the copy that you create, the programs you create, the free offers you create, all of that ties together into your brand story. Every single piece should complement the other, because in a crowded social media world, you really have to stand out. And you can stand out in two ways. One, you're being authentic. You're sharing your truth and you're starting to build really, really authentic, trustworthy relationships with your ideal client. That comes from sharing your story. Number two is being consistent. So your photos and your logo and your programs, they're all consistent. Everything makes sense. Your brand is showing up in the same style on Facebook, on Instagram, on your website, on Twitter, on Pinterest, in your Facebook ads. So when people see stuff from you, they know who this was. That is why your brand story is so important. And that is why you really, really have to start there. So stop looking outward at what everyone else is doing. That will come. We will look and see what, is doing great and what isn't doing great, and we'll definitely tap into our ideal client, but we want to focus on your brand story right now. What pieces of you do you want to share with the world? And how can you do that through your brand and your messaging? So I hope this was really, really helpful to you today. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. I'm talking about it all the time in my private community, the Authentic Brand Builders. So please click the link below and join us, and I will see you again for a video soon.